Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Before It's Too Late. I'm Rich.
And I'm Robbie.
And we run this channel just to kind of give people an idea of what retirement's going to be like or is like. Today, we're going to dive into the question that everybody has about when should I take Social Security? And our plan is to give you an idea of what our thoughts are and what our plan is as of today and some of the reasons why. And Robbie's got some ideas on why we may be doing it wrong that I think everybody probably has these arguments, or not arguments, but this discussions within them and their significant other have this discussion. And we're going to kind of give some insight into why we've settled where we are. And I've even got some graphs and things to show to try to solidify it in her mind as to why we're going to hopefully do it this way, given the information that we have right now.
Right. I mean, and in all honesty, we started very differently. What Rich's idea was, what my idea was, we're not the same. And we're going to talk about that. How probably over time I've navigated more to Rich's side, but we're going to talk a little bit.
Yeah. So I'm a guy that says I'm going to delay it as long as possible. And Robbie thinks that...
Take it as soon as you can.
Yeah, take it as soon as you can. And we're going to talk about why, and hopefully it maybe shines some light on yours. And I'm sure everybody has their ideas on it as well. And we'd love to hear of those in the comments. Where am I wrong? Where is Robbie wrong? What are some other ways that we should take a look at it? And if we've brightened it for you a little bit, like shown some light on some things that you hadn't thought about, we'd love to hear about that in the comments as well. So again, my take on it and the advice that we've been given by our financial guy is for me to wait until 70 to take Social Security, because that's when the max benefit is, and for Robbie to take it at 62. And the explanation, or at least the way I've received the explanation is, obviously my max benefit will be at 70, and that allows for our portfolio to recover the most from now until 70. I'm 60 right now. From now until 70, it'll be taking a dive, which I'll show in a graph in a second. But also after 70, as our reductions in spending happen and things like that, it recovers faster and actually in the long term leaves more money in our estate, which whether that's good or not.
Right. And I understand that thought process behind Rich and what he's saying. But in my mind, I think, okay, you take Social Security right away. And that way you're not taking as much from your investments, your IRAs, your 401ks. And so that gives those investments longer time to build. And so I was like, no, that's not right. Well, then when he starts showing things on graphs and putting calculations in, number-wise, he was right.
Right. Well, and I think one of the things, too, to take into account is, in situations like ours where I was the higher earner during our working years, my Social Security is going to be larger. I'm a man and my life expectancy is less than hers.
Right.
One of the things to think about is the earlier you take your Social Security, the less the survivor benefit is if I would pass away before Robbie. So basically, if I wait as long as I can, even if she's already started to take Social Security, if I pass away, she's going to get my Social Security instead of her smaller number.
Right.
Where if I take it early, my number's significantly smaller, might even be as small as hers, and it doesn't benefit her as much if I happen to pass away before she does. That is actually a pretty big part of the decision making for us, according to our financial guy. So that because I have some pensions that will go away when I pass away, so it's going to be important that Robbie has as much income as possible. If that situation happens.
Yeah. And then your Social Security, which is what I would get, would help offset the fact that I no longer get your pensions.
Right.
Correct.
Right. So another reason to think about waiting as long as possible is if you think your life expectancy is a while, right? So in my case, both my grandfathers lived into their 90s. One of my grandmothers both of my grandmothers were also nearly 90 when they passed away. So pretty good chance, as long as something doesn't happen, that we don't have any idea about right now, that my life expectancy could be well into my late 80s or 90s or maybe even longer.
Right. Yeah. And similarly, when I got to thinking about all of that, I had two grandmas that lived into their one into the 90s, one into the late 80s. And then a grandpa who died at an earlier age of a heart attack, but then another grandfather who lived until his late 80s. So longevity wise, I think, are safe to assume that probably we are going to live longer than shorter.
Yeah, I think so, and that makes a big difference. I think they say that the break-even point from taking Social Security early versus taking later is somewhere, between 80 and 85. Mm-hmm. So if you figure you're going to live past that, then the longer you take Social Security, mm-hmm. the more it's going to come to you over time.
Right.
So while we're talking about it, we're going to talk about the different things that we looked at. So basically, we're talking about when to take my Social Security, since I am the more significant wage earner. My Social Security is going to be bigger. We've kind of settled that Robbie's going to take hers at 62. That was the advice of our financial guy, and that's what she's comfortable with, is taking hers at 62. So the stuff that we're going to show is going to be based on the different times I could take it, whether that's 70, at first time I could take it, which is 62, or at full retirement age, which is 67. So the first thing I'm going to show you is somewhere on the screen, whether it's a whole screen or whatever, is a graph of our financial situation minus any specific numbers of what, starting today, if our plan is to take Social Security for me at 70 and her at 62, here's what our financial portfolio looks like. And as you can see, it's going down until I turn 70, it's kind of on a downward slope. Mm-hmm. But then when I turn 70, when Social Security starts to replace a good portion of what we're taking out of our investments, yep. Then that slope goes back up, and all the simulations that we've ran, this is where we would have the most when I'm 95 and Robbie's 92. And we're going to say that's the base number, that's 100%.
Right.
Okay. The next slide we're going to show, or the next graph on here, is if I take Social Security at 62 and Robbie takes it at 62. And what that leaves us with is about 92% of the maximum. So
it's not super significant,
no,
but it's significant enough.
Yeah, but it's enough. I mean, either way, we're going to be just fine.
Right.
But it's just, what's the way to maximize your benefit? And I think everybody would... throughout your life, you're always trying to maximize your returns on investment, and mm-hmm. this is just another case of that, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
So as you can see, it's just a little bit different. Like, the graph itself is a little flatter. Like, there's not the dip over the next, 10 years. Mm-hmm. And then it does start to increase again once Social Security kicks in, but it's not quite as steep, and it doesn't get quite as high by that 95 and 92 ages, space, yeah. Right? Mm-hmm. Okay, then the other option is taking it at full retirement age, so it's kind of the middle mm-hmm. option, mm-hmm. and that's where people kind of get a little bit stuck. I'm going to retire at 65. I can start taking my Social Security at 67, Medicare, and all that. But for us, as you can see again on the chart here, it doesn't really make a hill of beans difference.
Right.
I mean, really, if I would take it at 67, then I'm going to have 98% of what the maximum was. Mm-hmm. So again, it's not a big difference, but
right.
If you're trying to maximize it, why not try to get 100%, right?
Right. Well, and I think in showing these graphs, as you showed them to me too, it just reinforces me, like, we have the plan now of you taking it at 70, me taking it at 62. That's probably the most optimal for us. But at any given moment, if our circumstances change or whatever, we can alter it and take things differently without a horrible
right.
change or outcome, basically.
Yeah, the biggest thing is once you start it,
yeah,
there's no going back.
Right, yeah.
Right? But I mean, if I'm 65 and all of a sudden it looks like, something bad's happening and I'm not gonna...
Or we need money.
Yeah,
or,
some financial thing happens and, yeah, we need
whatever.
money, and then
Something
we could start taking it earlier,
Right.
but recognizing that it's going to have a long-term impact
Mm-hmm.
on the overall kind of health of our portfolio.
Right.
So what are some of the reasons that you think taking it earlier is better, or that maybe you used to think taking it earlier was better?
Well, I mean, in my head, it's like I said, at the beginning, in my head, it made sense. Okay, that's money that, yes, I understand it's going to be a smaller amount at the age of 62. But if we're using that money in place of our investments and our IRAs, 401ks, whatever, then we're not pulling from there, which then allows that money to continue to grow. And so in my head, it just made more sense to take the smaller amount early than it did to delay it. But, Rich, we have, and you can tell him a little bit more about this, but you use Empower a lot. And
that's where these graphs come from. There's a Empower personal dashboard. Empower is a financial services company.
Yeah.
We don't use them for our financial organization, but it is a free dashboard that you can have out there. It's free, right? But they tried to get me to switch over my finances to them, and I just basically told them no a few times, and that was it. But I'm still able to use this dashboard and put in all these different scenarios, what we want to spend or what our Social Security is, and generate these graphs. And as you're looking at the graphs, if you go back and look or whatever, I'm going to show another one here in a minute. There's two colors. The top color is the median, so the average kind of portfolio performance,
right.
And then the lower one is if the market only does operates in the 10th percentile, and so it's never really done that for any length of time, but if it operated there, how it would go, and as you could have seen or would have seen, we're fine in either direction.
Yeah, and for somebody like me, I'm a very visual kind of person. He can talk as much as he wants to say and blah 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 blah, but I need to see it on paper, and then I need to hear it again, and then I need to see it on paper again, and then I need to hear it again, and then maybe I'll start sort of believing what I'm being shown. So Empower has been good for me, when he pulled up all these scenarios and is like, listen, let's look at all of this, 62, 67, 70, and then comparing that has helped me to understand a little bit more about it and be okay with him waiting until 70. I think, when I was thinking about reasons why we should take it sooner versus later, the more I got to thinking about it. I mean, I think typically people, if they need, one of the big advantages to taking it right away at 62 is if you need that money. If you need that money to be able to live, obviously
you have to retire, or your job went away or whatever,
then take it, right? Yeah. Where Rich and I are in a position where we don't need that money, thankfully, with his pensions and other things. We are okay without taking Social Security. So there definitely, I think, are instances where people should take it, do need to take it, and it would be the right thing for them to do. But I think in the situation that we are in, I'm getting more comfortable with you waiting till you're 70.
Yeah. I think actually when we ran these numbers, to have the most at the end, it's Robbie taking it at 70 and me taking it at 70.
For sure.
But from a comfort standpoint,
we need to take mine.
It's not enough difference for me to
tell me no.
Yeah, for her to be worried about it. So our plan is me 70, her 62.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so one of the things you hear about, and especially when you're in our age group, is Social Security going to be around?
Which that is many times when we've had conversations, that's what I've said to Rich. It's like, this is money that we saved, government took from our paychecks, whatever, and I want to make sure we have access to it. So it's like, let's take it right away. If it's still available at 62, then let's take it right away. Because what if it suddenly goes away and we no longer, Social Security just disappears? Okay, well then we just lost out on all that money. And I was so sure of that argument until Rich proved me wrong.
I didn't prove her wrong necessarily, but I mean, my thought on the whole thing is, if all of a sudden the congressmen and senators decided, oh, we're just going to let Social Security go away, there'd be a mutiny. The country would fall into disrepair. I mean, think about how many people actually depend on Social Security for their entire retirement, or their even Social Security disability funds. if Social Security went away, the American culture couldn't function.
Right.
And I think enough people understand that, and especially our lawmakers understand that. My feeling is there'll be some reform in the next 10 years, hopefully in the next 10 years for sure, and there'll be some changes.
Right.
But even if not, and this is just something that was brought to my attention this morning, really, is all this talk about Social Security running out of money and the Social Security Trust Fund drying up, 2033 or whatever the latest projection is. That may very well be true. And again, that's saying that there's no reform. There's no additional FICA tax
Nothing is done to stop that.
There's no reduction in benefits or anything like that. The trust fund goes away in 2033. So what does that mean? I didn't understand this, but I didn't think about it, I guess, is it doesn't mean that Social Security stops. Apparently, 83% of what is given out in Social Security is basically a pass-through of what is taken in from FICA taxes. So if it went away in 2033, in order for it to be a balance sheet, you'd still get 83% of your Social Security. Your 100% Social Security would be reduced to 83%, but it wouldn't go away. It can't go away as long as we're taking FICA taxes out of people's paychecks.
Yeah, which I didn't understand that either. And that actually gave me a little more peace this morning when we were talking through all of that. And then, of course, Rich came in and ran those numbers.
So here's another chart that shows if both of our Social Security that we're planning on, mine at 70 and hers at 62, got reduced to 83%, here's that chart. And as you can see, that the numbers still are fine.
Right.
And, Empower does a percentage chance of success. All of these scenarios for us have a 99% chance of success, even the one where we're only getting 83% of our Social Security. As a matter of fact, if we both get 83% of our Social Security, we still have 88% of our nest egg at 95 and 92 that we would have had if Social Security stays the same as it is now.
Right. Yeah. And I just think the important thing on all of this is, plugging in your numbers and looking at yours. This is our scenario and our circumstance, which everybody is different, but just not being afraid to go to investigate it, to go after it, to look at it, to get those numbers plugged in and see where you are at and what the best case, the worst case scenario, all of those things. Because Rich has done that over and over again for me. And slowly I'm getting better at saying, yep, okay, not going to worry about it as much. But
Well, and I think it's really like, please don't take any of this as financial advice.
Absolutely.
Because we are not financial planners. I'm none of that. I don't claim to be.
Yeah.
I'm just telling you what our situation is. But if you need to have it solidified in your mind, go find somebody to talk to. Go to a certified financial planner and have them run your numbers. And if you're someone that thinks that I'm only going to have Social Security to live on, that's a different scenario than our scenario.
Yeah.
And if you are only living on Social Security and all of a sudden it goes from 100% to 83%, that's going to impact you. But also that can impact the way that you're planning between now and then.
Right. For sure.
Okay. So again, this is just some of the stuff we get asked, like what are you going to do about Social Security? We've talked about healthcare in the past, and we may do another one of those in the future about what we've kind of decided to do with healthcare. But Social Security is a big thing. I'm not a doomsdayer that says Social Security is on its last legs. I don't live my life in that place, and neither does Robbie. That's not me saying that she is. It's just that there are a lot of people out there that want to think that the sky is falling because the trust fund might run dry. Number one, I think they'll fix that. Maybe not fix it, because nothing in our government is fixed. But they'll work on it so that it doesn't run dry. But also, we're still going to be taking in Social Security taxes, and they're still going to pay those out. It may be at a lesser percentage, which would suck, don't get me wrong, but it's not, the odds of it going away are pretty slim.
Right. And that does bring some comfort to me.
Okay.
Not that I'm a doomsdayer, but I do always think about the worst case scenarios.
She does, for sure. Okay, so that's our take on Social Security and what we're planning to do right now. It's obviously flexible. That's the good thing about having, different streams of income, pension, Social Security, investments. You can make some adjustments. But again, our message has always been, almost every video, know what your situation is. Don't make an assumption that you need X amount of money to retire. Don't make an assumption that you have to be a certain age to retire. Go find out what your benefits are. Go find out what healthcare might actually cost you, all those things, and then make an informed decision. Because, another thing that I learned recently, as late as the 90s, the average retirement age was 57 years old. Right? Mm-hmm. And now the average retirement age is 62 years old, 30 years later. And it's the planning. People were planning to retire around 60 in the 90s. Now they're not planning to retire until 66. Mm-hmm. So those averages are going up too. And I just kind of refused to think that I'm going to work until 66 because, again, who knows what your health's going to be at that point.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we're hoping this helped you out. Maybe if you have some questions, again, leave them in the comments. We are thinking about doing another live stream at some point in the future, and it'd be great to answer some of those questions. But again, we're only answering from our perspective, and maybe my look at it is super rosy, and somebody out there can knock me down a few pegs. I don't know, but I hope not. But we'd love to hear from you. I'm hoping that you're subscribed and you like our video. It'll help us, reach more people, and set that notification bell so that you know when we put out a new video, or that when we decide we're going to go live again, and maybe you can join us on that. And we really appreciate the support we've received from you now. The last 16 or 18 months we've been doing this together. Mm-hmm. We enjoy it, and we enjoy the community that we've kind of built, little community that we've built on YouTube. So thank you for that. Thanks for watching all our videos, and God bless.